welcome our guest today, all the way from Ireland and not the UK. Put your hands together for Fil Campbell. Oh, wait, hold on. For Fil Campbell and Tom McFarland. There they are. Thank you guys so much for being here.
It's really nice to be here.
Oh, well, I'm glad. I'm glad that things are going well. Anyways, yeah, I'm not great with geography apparently. So tell me, is Ireland never been a part of the United Kingdom, or is that just England?
Technically, we're in Northern Ireland, so technically we are part of the UK.
Ah,
But we're not. Most people think of the UK as being England.
yes.
So, well, and where we are now, we're 100 yards from the border with the south of Ireland. So, and we're on the west coast.
Ah,
So we made, so we just call it. We say we're in Ireland because
yes.
it's very confusing to say UK.
So the next country to us is
America.
America, New York. New York, yeah.
Well, yeah. Now there's like is there a long-standing like beef between Ireland and Britain? Is that a thing?
You could say, well, the thing is, Ireland was part of the British Isles,
Mm.
and in fact, it is still known as the British Isles. But it had its independence 100 years ago last year,
Oh.
but part of the north was left as part of UK. So Great Britain is England, Scotland, and Wales.
Mm.
And then Northern Ireland is added on to it to make
The
United Kingdom. But the majority of people here in the north of Ireland, most people would call themselves Irish. We carry an Irish passport, and it's not. There's no imminent war or anything like that. But yes, we're very proud of being Irish, and the greatest insult is to be called English. So it'd be like it's sort of the thing between Canadians and Americans. So
Yeah. Don't call me Canadian. I would never. No, we love our Canadian brothers and sisters.
we love our English brothers.
Yeah. Nothing but love over here. But yeah, I do apologize for that. That was my silly mistake. But again,
You-
I
You're
just,
okay as long as you didn't call us English. That was no
oh
problem.
no, I would. I mean, I knew that there was something. I knew that there was some stuff and things that go on, and like I know a little bit about. Well, I guess I don't know with the I mean, you guys had some some like militant violence there over religion, and not so long ago, right? It was there was a I don't know, radical group. I forgot what they're called, but
You're better off not knowing. Yeah, we still have problems here, but it's not really. It's not over religion, but it's just convenient to call it that. But
yes.
yeah, it's the fact that part of Ireland is separated from the UK or from Ireland. That the north is separated, and there's a big percentage of people here in the north want to be united with the rest of Ireland, but there are some groups of people who see themselves as British and want to remain that way. So it was really violent for nearly 30 years.
Nearly 30 years. Yeah.
From the early 70s. Thankfully, we've had peace now for 25 years. And
we want that to continue.
And we want that to continue.
Absolutely. Peace for everyone, right? Yeah. Don't call my Irish whiskey UK whiskey. I would never move in Dutchman.
You see, the Irish whiskey has an E in it, and the Scottish whiskey has no E. Is that right? I never know. It's whiskey and it's good, wherever it comes from.
Those wily Scots, they'll just
Absolutely. Our neighbors.
Yeah, I would love. Either way, I know that the landscape there is beautiful. Just seeing pictures, and just I would love to see Ireland and all of that. Actually, it would be a beautiful
Yeah,
thing.
the whole British Isles. It's a very small area between the islands. It is very beautiful.
Yeah,
there's
but
no
it's
doubt.
beautiful
Yeah.
from north to south of the whole of the British Isles. Yeah, it's all. Yeah.
You've got a huge heritage that's linked to here as well in West Virginia, and the Appalachian, or is it the Blue Ridge Mountains on the Appalachian Mountains would be very similar, and there's a big heritage connection between two parts. So
Yeah, I mean, we had it's interesting to think of like how everything has sort of evolved, and at one point when the Irish were coming over here in droves and talking about like coming to New York, right? And there was and how they were treated as second class citizens, just trying to assimilate into American culture, which is supposedly supposed to be this encompassing melting pot. But I mean, I guess it just takes a little while for us to get warmed up to new people. I don't know. It's
well, your president was here to mark the 25th anniversary of the peace agreement, and he has a huge Irish ancestry. And there was some of the media that were accompanying him were saying that over 10% of Americans identify as Irish. And so there's something like 33 million. So we get everywhere.
oh yeah, you made your presence known. Yeah, I got a lot of Irish friends who are very proud of it. They're very proud. They like their drink, and funny enough, like the Irish folks that I do know, they don't mind to fight either. So like all the stereotypes all in one. And that's how we do it here in America.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious then, like, do you guys, when you guys travel and tour, with the whole Brexit thing, do you guys go over there since Brexit? I know, like, I have some British friends who have.
Yeah, we're actually just back from doing some gigs in England and Scotland. Brexit has caused more of a problem. Like I said before, here in the north, we can carry both passports, Irish and British, and having an Irish passport, we have easy access to Europe. So, in fact, we're technically sort of the other side of about 100 yards from here is technically Europe. But there's an agreement in Northern Ireland that for trade, at the moment, we still have access to Europe free. But there's a whole hoo-ha going on about it. And
we're technically for trade still part of the EU.
Okay.
And that's causing political problems here because it's less easy for trade across the water to England and Scotland. But Brexit has caused huge problems, and more so for our friends in England and Scotland in getting their produce into mainland Europe, and for musicians traveling, it's a nightmare. It's exactly the same as if you wanted to come over and tour here, you have to go through all sorts of visa things. It's the same now for any of the UK artists going to Europe. Yeah. So an awful lot of people who had any connection to Ireland got an Irish passport to allow them a bit more access, although our addresses are still UK. So we'll see how that works. But
it's all still a bit new, so we're sort of coming to terms with it all.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've had friends who are in England who want to tour. I know it just messed up the way that they can do business and everything for them. Yeah. And they have a harder time going and touring Europe. And now that the whole Brexit thing and they're all independent and stuff. So do you guys do the whole Euro thing then where you're at? Do you guys have Euro?
Yeah, we do both. Actually, where we live normally, we're on the border as well. So we would we use sterling in the north, but euro. So our nearest town to us here is in the south of Ireland, in the Republic of Ireland. So we would use euros if you were going shopping there. And but that's always been the way. Border towns, I think, have always had that duplicity about them.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's like kind of going to Canada. I get their monopoly money, and
Yeah.
in exchange for my real money that's really printed from the press. But I mean, I don't know. But I really enjoyed your new album. I was listening. I've been listening to it throughout the week, and I've noticed that it's just been a very calm presence in my life, and I really dig that. Excuse me. Let me. Um, yeah, with your guys' albums and stuff, like how much of it are you guys producing? How much of it are you guys recording? Like, are you guys doing all of the parts? Because I know you had some saxophone parts on it. And the new album, by the way, the latest album is Shoreline, correct?
Yeah. No, we brought in a few guys for those extra bits.
No, we do the bones. We sort of record live at home the bones of the tracks ourselves. So we put down a track just with the two of us, and then we augment that if we feel we want to bring in maybe someone on keyboards or someone on. I mean, we could do some of those things, but we wouldn't do them as well as the people that we can bring in to do them. You know,
It's like I said on the album cover, that we just. It's the band that we can never afford to take on the road, so we take them into the studio instead.
Yeah. And with some good friends. We have a good friend who's a great saxophone player, and another great friend who's a great trumpet and player. So we just asked them would they come in and do a little bit. So we thought we'd give a couple of the tracks a little bit of the Van Morrison treatment.
Yeah. But there's a couple of the guys, the bass player and the keyboards player, both have played in Van Morrison's band for quite a long time. Yeah, and he always uses local heads, and a great scene between Belfast and Dublin. There's a lot of really good session players around, and they're just as happy to come and work in a small studio as go and work with Van Morrison or Peter Gabriel or whoever, So
wow, that's really cool. That's not how it works here.
No. But we still pay them, mind you.
Well, yes. I mean, paying is one thing, but go ahead.
What's different for you, or?
Well, it's different in the fact that if someone gets any kind of clout working with somebody, then all of a sudden they are much more of an exclusive, musician, and therefore they don't. And that's not everybody. That's a very huge, sweeping generalization. And this is a big country, and we got a lot of great people and talented people here. But it's we do have this. There is sort of this entitlement as soon as you tour with a bigger name, like this. Well, now I'm big boss on campus, but but it's not everybody.
Yeah, I know. We do have a bit of that as well.
I think you get that everywhere. I mean, I don't know.
But like Northern Ireland is very small. Ireland as a whole is very small, and the Belfast music scene, where most of those guys would be working Belfast, although Rod and Nicky both play with Mary Black and people as well. But they're they just have to, like everybody else, pick up the work where you can get it, because band's not touring all the time, and he doesn't pay wages when he's not touring. And
but in Northern Ireland, there's only 2 million people in Northern. In Southern Ireland, there's 5 million people, so there's 7 million on the island.
Wow.
There's probably more than that in your city.
Yeah, like in one U.S. city, that's the whole, I think Chicago. That's my city. The city that I live close to is it's pretty small. It's like maybe, I don't know, like 800,000 metropolitan, the whole metropolitan area. So
that's like Belfast.
Oh, okay. And then so like in Belfast, then the music scene is very lively, and musicians can work there pretty profitably and live comfortably.
I was to a friend the other day who's a promoter, and he was lamenting that there's just a real dearth of live venues at the moment, and he would mainly promote American acts coming in, sort of Americana, into the jazz end of country kind of thing. But he said it's really, really tough to find venues. So you kind of have got 2 or 3 very small places that'll take maybe 50, 80 people, and then you're jumping to an arena. You know,
Whoa.
Hardly those
very hard to get
in
the
between
in-betweens.
ones are very, very difficult. Yeah.
But
But there's a big connection. There's a big sort of Belfast,
particularly
sort of Nashville connection. Yeah, there's a sort of real Americana thing between. There's the Belfast Nashville Festival happens every year, and they bring in people from Nashville, the States, and a lot of there'll be a big local influence, sort of as part of that, you know.
Oh.
But we're a bit more, and we're only like 50 miles south of Belfast. We're sort of where we normally live. We're halfway between Belfast and Dublin, and so our influences would be kind of a mix of both of them. And we grew up playing around. And I think Dublin's much the same as well. And it's hard getting audiences out since COVID. Well, that hasn't recovered totally.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no problem getting, you know, a lot of American acts tour here.
That's really interesting, the whole Nashville thing. I mean, because of the Americana sound and the country music scene that's going on in Nashville, Belfast is sort of glommed onto that and sort of, you know, encompassed that into the culture there.
But it's sort of logical in a way, because, I mean, a lot of, I mean, your bluegrass music came from Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's that, there's going to be that feel, there's that connection, there's that, you know, and it's sort of coming back in a slightly different form. It has developed through the country, through the people, into a different feeling. And then, you know, to me, it sort of figures that it would happen, you know. But
historically as well, you know, after Ireland got independence in the, you know, kind of the 20s and 30s, the inclination, I grew up in the west, right on the coast in the west of Ireland, and we wouldn't have had BBC. We would have listened to RTE radio, which is the Irish station, and people were much more influenced by music that was being sent back from America by their relatives who had emigrated. And it was kind of against the grain to go and listen to English music that would have been seen as foreign. And that has changed, obviously, over the years with bands like, you know, U2 and the Undertones. And we've had a huge input into modern pop and rock music as well. But I think a lot of it has come from that. But then we've got a country music scene here, for want of a better word. I'm not even sure I should tell you about it, but sometime you can look up country and Irish.
Okay.
Right? It's
country and western, country and Irish.
Yeah, it's like old country, but so there's 2 kinds of that. You can either have jive, sort of a quick step, or a waltz, full stop, right?
Okay.
But it is huge and absolutely massive, and we used to have a big show band scene here, which was kind of like, how would you describe the show bands? There were sort of fabulous musicians who were cover bands, but they were dance bands, right?
But they'd be all top musicians, all top notch.
Yeah, you know, kind of with brass sections and great vocalists and stuff. And they did all the dance halls, and they've been dying out the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah, because there used to be a ballroom scene over the whole of Ireland. There were these ballrooms, just a huge dance hall, and that's where all these bands travelled around. They had huge followings, great musicians, great stuff, and the people loved it, and they got out and danced, and it was their entertainment. It was what you did at the weekends.
Yeah, but so you kind of, that has faded, but the country and Irish has stayed, and then the newer songwriters are trying to get, or you know, kind of would be linking in more to Nashville and trying to. There would be more, the people who don't want to be identified with country and Irish will head over to Americana. Sort of.
I got you.
Although it seems to be a little bit on the wane at the minute. I think it's one of these things that has a demographic attached to it. It just depends on the age group, and I think the age group that we're into that are sort of waning now, and the new age group are moving into something slightly different. So it's amazing watching these things, how they change. Yeah, it's fascinating.
But it was very much identified with the country areas, rural areas as well.
Yeah, well, the people.
Any of us who were in the city, we kind of wanted nothing to do with it. We were into our rock music and that was it.
Didn't so that I mean I that is so fascinating to think about the lineage. I mean, because you're absolutely right. Like the lineage of music and how the Irish kind of came here and into West Virginia and into the mountain and became sort of into, we call them the mountain folk here. Um,
Yeah.
no,
Could have been.
no one calls them the mountain folk. But yeah, and then it sort of evolved from bluegrass into country, and I imagine even blues and stuff kind of comes from
Oh yeah,
that
yeah.
with the African slave trade, and they're bringing their vibe. So like, it's just such an interesting way of looking at music and thinking about the history of it and how certain genres sort of became what they are. So that stuff is so incredibly fascinating to me. Um, so, I mean, I would love to know a little bit more about your guys' backgrounds in music. We could start with Tom. Tom, when did you start getting into music, and what was your first instrument?
Well, I always was a drummer.
Hmm.
Uh, I started. Um, I got my first drum from my grandmother, which was a tin drum. You know, when you're a child, I was about 4 years of age and got this tin drum that you could hang around your neck. You know, pair of sticks, and to me that was just wonderful. I could just get lost in
Wait,
beating the head with the drum.
tin
Your mother,
drum, it,
mother gave out.
like the Jamaican drum, like the
No, it was like a toy drum,
Oh,
but
okay.
made sort of like a marching band drum,
Ah,
but made out of tin for a child. You know, just one of these sort of with brightly painted around the outside. I can still see it to
yeah.
this day. And I was about 4 years of age when I was presented this thing. My mother must have hated my grandmother for giving me this because I was parading around the garden and parading around the house, beating the hell out of this thing.
Oh man, little boys and hitting stuff. Because the same
Yeah.
way with me too. I was a drummer. I started out as a drummer, and you know, God bless my parents for dealing with that, because I mean, I was that kid, just slam, 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 and you know, it wasn't like that forever. I mean, eventually you start, you know, finding influence, and then you know, you start evolving your talent. But either way, it was. I mean, God bless my parents. They put up with a lot of crap when it came to music and being loud at 4 in the morning while me and my drunks are getting pissy drunk and smoking weed and just being horrible people and just being loud at 4 a.m. My mom has to work, you know, a 16-hour shift. So I mean, just my mom. I gotta give love to my parents. They put up with a lot. They ushered a lot. So I mean, bless them, bless them. But that's very nice that you were able to so you got sort of planted in at a young age. Like, I want to just hit shit. Just like, I want to just do
Yeah,
that.
but I mean, and there was always music. I mean, there's always music around. I mean, my mother and father sang. They sang a duet. They did a duet thing together. Um, my cousin is a great piano player. My uncle was a professional clarinet player in a jazz band. Um, you know, so there was always music. When you know, when I went to my grandmother's house, we usually that was your sort of weekend away. The kids were piled into the car, taken to my grandmother's house. We were put into the parlor, which is the front room.
Yeah.
Right? And so the adults sat in the back room doing whatever they were doing, probably drinking beers or whatever. And we were in the front room where the piano was, and we sent in there to play. So my cousin, he would always be on the piano. And so you'd be messing around doing stuff all it was a part of, you didn't see it as anything special or different. It was just what you did. It
Yeah.
was just everybody you had a party piece, or you did a song, or you know, my grandmother just loved jazz. She was mad into jazz, and you know, anytime she would put the record player on, it would be a jazz record would go on. You know, I remember hearing Acker Bilk playing on the record player. You know, and that tune "Strangers on the Shore" has just stuck in my head forever.
Oh,
You know,
beautiful.
so it's you know, it was just there. It was
Yeah.
just always part of what you did.
Yeah.
um, and I think that's a big thing in here and in this country, is that most people have within a family will have somebody who plays plays something or sings something or does something.
Yeah. That's interesting. So art is a huge factor in the culture of the Irish.
It's huge, yeah.
Music
It
is,
is huge, yeah.
I think they did a survey one time that 2 out of 3 people play or sing on the entire country.
That's amazing.
It's,
That is amazing. Like, well, I mean, you know, I know, again, I know very little about your country, and I don't mean to just sit here and pick at the parts of the sad parts and the bad parts, or at least the sad times, but I do imagine that, that kind of probably comes from some sort of strife. I always imagine that art really breeds well in downtrodden people. And I mean, for a while there, you guys, the first thing that comes to my mind is the famine, right?
the Irish have a history of being downtrodden, we sort of going back to famine years and which is where the mass exodus went to America. But it's very interesting. Just before we came on air, you were playing a video from an old TV program that we made years ago, and I was looking at songs that had been around whenever I was a child that my mother sang. Tom comes from the city, and I come from very rural area, and but it was the same songs that everybody knew, and they're probably the same songs again, going back to the mountain thing in America that you would hear there,
right.
And so it was very interesting. Yeah,
but I think people came from poor rural backgrounds, so entertainment was self-generated. And I think it's the same for people in the Appalachians and the mountains, as you say. Those people entertained themselves. They got together at a night, they sat around with a jug of something and played a lot of tunes together and sang along the songs and danced and did hard shoe and so similar to a lot of the Irish dancing and things. There's so many connections,
But it's also a thing as well that singing, like as you said, it wasn't an elitist thing back in the day. That became that way in the last 50, 80 years. You had classical musicians who were above everybody else, but it was kind of, people sang when they worked. If you look through tradition, you'll get the fish gutters in the Scottish Islands that had songs that went with the rhythm of their work, and pulling in seaweed, it was a rhythm. The fishermen had rhythm songs, and it's like the what you call the sea shanties, kind of that the what's that popular one of them, the Wellerman, that pop song that's been out, and it's da, 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 da.
Yeah.
So that's a sea shanty,
Okay.
and that was kind of, that's coming from the fishing trades. So it was something everybody sang to keep the rhythm of the machines, and then it became a thing of so and so that's teaching in school tells little Johnny, well, you can't sing, you stand at the back of the choir. So he spends the rest of his life believing that he can't, and it becomes something. It has morphed into something else.
Yeah, it did change. Yeah, and then you got a lot of these, as you said, a lot of these highfalutin singers, tenors, and people like that took the people's songs, sang them their way in a very almost operatic manner, took the local accent out of them, and made them something highbrow.
Yeah.
Which was it took all the stuff in a completely different direction, sort of taking it from the people, and that's a strange phenomenon.
Schooling and
Well, and that does seem to happen. That does seem to happen a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like the things end up getting taken. We here in America have that sort of that, what do they call it, appropriation, which I have kind of a problem with that, because I like to see America as like as a unit, and we all sort of grew together. Every culture that came here, and so I feel like it's all American music. But there's a lot of people who are like very, like Elvis Presley is a very good example of it, right? Like how people look at Elvis as the king, but also he got rich and famous off of sort of taking from poor black folks and doing the exact same dancing and doing and the same songs, you know, and just it was just a white face on it. But on the other hand, it's like I feel like Elvis also perpetuated that music and also shone light on those artists as well. And so it's not ideal, right? You would want the black folks here to be put on the pedestal from their own merit, from what they've done, from what they accomplished. But it took a white guy to sort of shine light on rock and roll for it to sort of explode and for people to kind of go back and be like, oh, there's blues and there's, you know, all these people who came before Elvis, where Elvis got his information from his influence from. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, but it you know, at the end of the day,
like the Paul Simon thing as well. When
yes.
Paul Simon did Graceland, it was the same
Right.
sort of thing, that sort of debate.
Yeah, they didn't like that, did the Africans?
Yeah,
like
you know, but I think there is that element that he shone a light on
Right.
what good these people were. And
But I think it's down to us as musicians as well, though, to acknowledge, you know, what we know, and to find, you know, if we are doing, like I do some work with community choirs, and they're having a huge conversation at the moment about cultural appropriation. And I agree with you. You know, music evolves, and I think you can get too political about it and, you know, kind of too mouthy. But at the same time, I see their point that if we're singing, if I'm teaching an African song, which is really simple harmonies, and they're gorgeous for people who don't have confidence as singers, that it's worthwhile figuring out that there's 52 countries in Africa and there's something like 2,000 tribes and languages. So at least try and pin it down a wee bit closer than saying, this is an American song, you know,
Right.
kind of, or this is an African song, you know.
well,
But it's
go
a
ahead.
weird one. No, go ahead.
Well, there's you can show appreciation and I think it's beautiful to know the history of it and to know where it comes from, but to also embrace it as what it is now. And what it's evolved to, because it's still inspiring and uplifting people, and you know, it brings joy to people. So to sit there and denigrate it to, you know, you're a racist now.
Yeah, exactly.
You're a racist piece of crap because you know Eminem, you know, if you're familiar with Eminem, he's a white rapper here, you know, like there's a lot of people who call him like one of the best rappers ever, but because he's white now, he's not, like his talent is now no more, and he didn't bring anything to the table, and now you know
it's fair that I think it's a bit.
It is, and I
it's
think
embarrassing, honestly.
But I think of how, you know, kind of, if I were to list my favorite artists of all time, they're all black.
Yeah.
And it's sort of, I'm not going to turn around just because somebody's a certain color. I'm listening to the music. I don't care what they look like.
Right.
You know, just get on with it.
And the funny thing is too, I mean, working in so many, for me personally, working in so many genres, like I've worked in reggae and hip hop and rock and jazz and all these different elements. It's never like within the music, within the musician circle itself, it's not the issue. Like skin color isn't the issue. It's like, can you play or can you not?
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's like, so like when it's literally something the fans of music have sort of come up with to sort of busy themselves, I guess. I don't know. I guess we've become so comfortable in our lives that we need something to get all bent out of shape.
People want to own certain things within their. They want to claim ownership on them, and I find that really.
But we're on the edges of traditional music, you know, kind of what we do, and traditional music and the songwriters. There's a slightly different songwriting and music culture in the south of Ireland than in the north. It's like I was saying, we're kind of bridging it to a certain degree, but traditional music is huge across this island, and children are taught it from as soon as they can walk. In the Catholic schools and areas in the north, not in the Protestant areas, but all over in the south. And but there's an elitism and there's a snobbery around traditional music, and I find it's exactly the same in English traditional, Scottish traditional. That if you're not doing it the proper way, then you shouldn't be doing it. And several years ago, I did a couple of tours on my own over in England, just doing some, or over in America, doing some folk clubs, and I was up around New England. And by the virtue of being Irish and singing that material, I was only going into those areas, and I find that that snobbishness almost about the music carried through. Um, there's a good melting pot here because because it's such a small place.
Yeah.
But I think that's got a lot to do with it as well. That if you're singing a song from County Kerry, then it should be a Kerry song. It should be sung in that dialect, and
Yeah, there's a sort of a hierarchy within it all.
Yeah.
And I have problems with some of that. It's just a bit.
Songs should be for singing.
You can't just exclude somebody just because they're not doing it exactly the way you think they should be.
Yeah.
Should be doing.
It doesn't make sense to me, and it doesn't compute, because as long as you're able to bring it to the stage in a respectful way and be able to bring joy to, because that's what we're here for. Is we're here to entertain, we're here to bring joy to people, and if it's one thing if you're going up there and you're just butchering and you don't have your craft honed in and you're just doing whatever, which, by the way, that's okay too, because when people start, you're not good, you're starting out and you're trying to figure out your voice and figuring out where you fit into this. But anyways, I find it, you gotta, I lost my place. I got myself.
I know. Yeah. It's sort of. I think personally, I've no time for the elitists in it. If there's snobbishness around it, get on with it. Okay, fine. Just be there and do it. And
yes.
Yeah, and I mean, music by its nature is a different there's so much variation there. There's so much for everybody.
Yeah.
You're not going to like everything. You're not going to hate everything.
Yeah.
Just the beauty of it, I think.
I think that we can be hampered an awful lot by putting out music and then sort of one reviewer who has a kind of a snide remark, or you can be very sensitive to what you kind of what other people think about it. And
particularly when you're starting off, if someone says the wrong thing, that can totally destroy you.
Yes, it can. I mean, you think about school teachers, and who do this all the time, right? There's a student who might be good at drawing or music or whatever it is, and it just takes one comment, to crush that spirit, and then they're just like, well, I'm not good at this. I never am. I'm never going to be good, so I'll quit. And you don't know what you're extinguishing, right? Like, we don't know what the potential of that person and that as an artist is, because and when I was saying, if you're terrible at something when you first begin, it's only because you're beginning. And it's I don't like it when people are like, oh, you suck, because that is detrimental. But you can tell somebody, it's like, yeah, you need work on this and just keep going. And that's what I like to, because if someone comes up to me, he's like, what'd you think? And it was like, and if the performance was like, it was okay, because again, knowing that this person just started, I would never be like, oh my God, that was horrible. Please just give it up. Don't quit your day job. No, it's like, you work on it, just stay with it, just keep practicing and keep going. Like, you're gonna develop into something else. You got to remember that this isn't your end product. Like, you have to keep going. It's something that builds upon itself. So as long as I just feel like as long as people are entertaining and they're doing it, in a good will, and they're putting out good vibes and stuff, there's no right or wrong way to do this. We're just expressing ourselves, and we're trying to resonate with others, and that's beautiful. And so
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
every gig's a learning experience.
that is true. That is very true.
That's right. That's right. You never get to the point where but I remember hearing, I don't know what it's like in America, but teachers who go to college, or a student going to college to train to be a teacher, if they're going into primary school, with, I don't know what is that, elementary or
Yes.
um, over the period of the 3 years that they're training, they get 4 hours of music.
Wow.
In the 3 years, right? So unless they're already a musician themselves, a lot of the time they're teaching basic music one page ahead of the class, without the experience or the knowledge, and are being expected to do a morning assembly, a nativity play, maybe put together a choir, and have all of that together with little or no experience, And not every school is lucky enough to have a qualified musician in that position, So I thought that was really interesting to see, again, but with singers in particular, where boys tend to develop their voices at a different pace than girls. So, kind of a boy who can't sing in tune when he's 4 or 5 years of age, maybe a girl can, and then to be told that he can't sing, whereas maybe his voice would have developed when he was 8 or 9,
Right.
It's fascinating. It's a dangerous subject, a dangerous power to have.
It's a lot of.
Yeah, it's a sad thing to think, that wasted potential of someone who could go off and do something more. Yeah, but yeah, we have that a lot here as well. Here in America, here in America, it's wild because one school could be like very, very well funded in a very affluent part of the city, and then you have on the other side, in the underserved communities, the schools are crumbling, and teachers aren't paid enough, and no one has experience, and you're asking the English teacher to also teach social studies and Spanish, and then maybe music if that's not cut from the curriculum altogether. So it's a strange way that we go about it, and I feel like there's a lack of appreciation of art in America. I mean, we do appreciate it, but I feel like we've gotten so accustomed to it that we've become accustomed to having musicians and music and art all around us at all the time, that we almost expect it now, and it's so disposable. And especially when you think about how streaming services work, like Spotify and stuff. Like, I mean, I do it too. Like, I'll love an album and a new artist on Spotify, and then 2 months later, I'm so inundated with music and new stuff that I forget all about it. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that person, but I don't listen anymore because it's just so disposable. It just feels disposable. And I don't know.
It's really undervalued on people. You're just not selling CDs anymore. But I remember hearing it must be about 4 years ago. Hosier, Take Me to Church.
Take me to church.
He was 24. He was 23 when he released that, and on his 24th birthday, the song had been a huge hit over the summer. And I remember listening to the radio and the presenter saying, he's just hit whatever 3 million streams on Spotify, and he has earned the equivalent of the wholesale price of one CD. And I thought, we saw him at an event one night, and he was just playing an acoustic guitar in the corner, sort of thinking, that's why those musicians are out doing gigs in small studios.
Right. Because I mean, you can get all the attention you want, but like when it comes down to it, and then you can get involved in these weird deals from record companies where they own. They get a piece of everything. They get a big part of your touring. They get your merchandise. They get whatever you're putting out, whatever has your name on it. They get a big piece of it too. And so it does leave some musicians sort of, you know, they're the ones out there in the spotlight. They're the ones jet setting around and you know, driving here on a bus and driving there, not sleeping well and not eating well and not, you know, the whole thing that comes with a touring musician. And at the end of the day, sometimes they end up in debt, you know. So it's a very backwards thing. It's just been.
I think the record companies these days just want employees. They just want a musician to be an employee of theirs and to further their business. I don't think it has got anything more attached to it than that.
They've started a scheme again in the south here about this year is the first year of it, where they're giving a living wage to 2,000 artists. Is it
2,000 artists? Yeah.
They're trying it for 3 years, and they're given the equivalent of what would be the dole, I think, in the south.
So
they're getting about €300 a week.
Wow.
And they're trying it as a trial period for 3 years, and it's the same model that they use in Cuba. And,
but it's across the board: musicians, art painters, writers, and they've picked 2,000.
I think it's 2,000.
I think it is. Yeah, I think you're right.
But and if it works, it'll be a model that, you know.
Well, they sort of see the value that brings to tourism and things as well, and what it brings to the economy when you've got musicians that are out working and playing and generating that business and
writers and
I think
it accounts for music accounts for 12% of the gross income in GDP in the south of Ireland.
Wow.
That's massive, you know, kind of when it comes into tourism and whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and U2 would be a huge part of that. They're one of the few acts that haven't moved their money to a tax haven. Sorry.
Hey, let's go Bono. Hey, come on.
Yeah.
Well, that's beautiful. That's really cool. That made me respect you. And I love U2. I absolutely adore them. But the fact that they're also sort of keeping their money in the country and still contributing in that sense is that's amazing. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, I thought that was really good when I heard that, so that there were, because like there's so many that don't. But,
yeah, I mean, do you blame people, like, especially if you come up poor and all of a sudden you come upon a bunch of money and then taxes come through and take, you know, 40% of your money? I get the attraction to moving your money offshore and moving your money around to protect it.
I want to be that rich to experience that. It would be really nice.
Just let me try it. Prove to you that it won't change me.
Yeah, no, I mean that because that really is a choice that they're making. You know, that is a really conscious decision to not do that and to take a loss. A substantial loss by not.
Maybe they've just moved it back. I'm not sure of what the history of them has been. You know, but yeah, it's sort of,
yeah. I mean, those laws are put into place to protect wealthy people's money, and we don't have that access to the same thing, and it's It's wild though, you know. It's a wild situation because as soon as you would think that you would want to keep your money in your community, and you know your taxes are, you know, that it's going to at least helping your surroundings. But I mean, to sit there and be like, well, I could lose 40% of my money, or I could, you know, lose maybe 10 or 5% of it. I get it, especially coming from a famine mentality, because I mean, I've been poor for a long time and trying to be a musician, and so like it's a struggle and it's a hustle. So I see the appeal of wanting to keep that fortune.
We tell a story on stage. I kind of have a wee song I wrote a few years ago, that the riches you get as a musician is from the audience and from the places you get to and all that sort of thing. But you know, you very rarely see many rich folk musicians around the place. But there's a doctor here, or a band. Have you ever heard of the Saw Doctors?
No.
They're kind of a punky folk band, but from 20, 30 years ago. But anyway, one of them won the lottery, and he was asked, what would he do now that he's won all this money, and he says, I think I'll keep playing until it's all gone. Yep.
Yeah, but that's the other part of it too, right? Because that's part of this whole gig is the exchange you have between you and your audience, because because it's those nights that like people are engaged and people are just locked into everything you're doing, and the set is perfectly curated, and the sound's good, and everybody's just there in one spot experiencing this beautiful thing together all at once. And it's those moments when you get off stage where you're just like, oh my God, this is why I do this. And this
exactly, that's the dream of why you've been doing it.
Yeah, it's that sort of unspoken contract between you and the audience. You're both there to buy into it, and it's great when you get that connection.
And plus, we've traveled, spent a lot of time working in Europe, particularly Germany, Holland, Denmark, sort of those countries, and you go to places that you're never in a million years would you get the chance to go to, even for us going and playing in America and Australia, and we've been on most of the islands around Scotland and England and Ireland, and kind of you'd never go to them on a holiday, and so that's been
I've been to a lot of beautiful places, have a lot of great friends in different countries around the world, and it's really
nice way to be.
It has given us a great gift.
Yeah, most definitely. I've been able to do amazing things just because I have the ability to do this. So it's like, it's definitely, that's part of it. It's just being able to explore and see the world in different ways. And there's nothing like, touring and going to a new place and sort of, checking out the scene and taking in the culture there and getting to talk to the people there and stuff. There's nothing like that, just sort of this.
Do you tour a lot in Europe?
I've never toured Europe. I've gone to Hawaii. But
that's a nice one.
It's still the States, but yes, I love it. Was an amazing trip.
It's just so varied from one end of the country to the other.
It is
you've got so much where you are.
It is. When I was in California, I toured a lot of like up and down the coast, West Coast, and into Arizona and Utah, and we've toured Texas and stuff. So a lot of just going into weird places and crazy experiences, and just crazy beautiful and crazy scary and crazy just
crazy. Why didn't I get a real job when my mother told me?
Well, yes, but it's like I'd rather be doing I'd rather be playing Brown Eyed Girl to even to an empty pub than working in an office somewhere where I hate my job and where I hate I hate my life. At least even on your worst nights of playing music, you still get to play music. And that's the thing. That's the big difference. Is like you could be broke and you could be how are we gonna get to the next city, but you had a good show and that just sort of charges you to the next place, and you figure it out and you make it work. But yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful profession. And personally, because of the pandemic and where I live, I actually ended up getting a job, and so I'm working as a chef at a high-end nursing home. So. Which I really actually love, because I work in the memory care unit, whereas the dementia patients are. So it's I'm very interactive with them, and I worked at a homeless shelter for a winter doing a winter crisis program, and it was interesting to be back in the workforce in that capacity where you're actually helping people and you're working, like you're literally, what you're doing is making a difference. And so it was a really cool awakening to have. And then so to sort of go from the homeless shelter to the nursing home, I'm not being my life isn't being threatened every day by people who are unstable and have nothing to lose, but it's still that care that's there, that one-on-one thing, which I really like. And that's sort of part of music too, is sort of spreading joy and spreading healing frequencies.
Your music will make a difference in that dementia area as
Oh
well.
yeah, we play there too. We also play. Me and my wife, we're a duo, and we play at the nursing home as well. So it's a really cool thing. If I have to work for the man, I don't mind working over there. So it's been a cool experience. But Tom, so are you a full set player, or have you always been hand percussion? Has it always been?
No, I have a kit. I play kit. I sort of fell in love with hand percussion because I play. I started playing a lot of boron, which is the Irish traditional drum, which is this drum, and so this is a very, very different sort of thing, So. It's such a versatile instrument, and you can take it.
Yeah.
Take it in a bag, and you've got it.
Yeah, not like a set. There you go.
So you've got a lot of different. But yeah, I started off playing kit.
But you sort of use the congas as a reduced kit. You've got
I do when we're
it.
touring. I have a foot pedal thing that I put with the PA system, and then I use the congas sort of as a pseudo kit as well.
Oh, okay.
So I have some cymbals and things with me, and so I use brushes and things like that and stuff. So for variation, But
yeah. So
but you did the full kit on a couple of tracks on the album.
Yeah. But it's not something that I do as much of these days, because we're not playing with a full band. If you're playing with a full band, it's a different story. When it's just the two of us, and it's guitar, percussion, and two vocals, a kit doesn't really lend it to that.
Not the slamming away. Yeah, I understand that. I understand that for sure. So have you always been involved in folk music as a drummer, or have you played like everything?
No, when I was at school, I was in a wee pop band, playing pop music with a guitar player and a bass player, and that was when I was around 13, 14.
Oh, cool.
Around that sort of age, we thought we were the bee's knees. We just thought we were absolutely wonderful.
Of course.
But we were in our own heads.
Of course.
Oh, hello.
I think we're a little frozen. Well,
we lost it there momentarily. You're back again.
I'm here. You guys are a little frozen
too,
still.
But, I know you've lost us as well, have you?
No, I can hear you, but
right.
we've...
Yeah, I mean, we're still on, okay?
No, we're frozen, yeah.
Yeah, you're frozen. That's okay. You both are like smiling, so it's okay.
It's here, I'm sure.
It'll either catch up or we'll figure something out.
Oh,
there you go.
Turn it on again.
There it is. Reset. Look at that.
Nothing beats a reset.
I agree. So then did you end up studying percussion in school, or?
At that time I was in the school I was in were offering classes through the School of Music in Belfast, playing. So I had 2 or 3 years of that before I left school, where the School of Music would send a tutor into the school. So once a week I was getting sort of 2 hours of drum for nothing.
Wow.
Which was great.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
when I left,
early, yeah.
when I left school, I left it behind for a long time. You know, you sort of get caught up in the, got to get a job, got to get out and work, got to earn money, got to do this, got to do that, and that all got left behind for many years.
Mm.
But I was all, the interest was still always there. Of course, it never goes away. But and then we used to sing a lot as well. My brother, we used to sing walking home from the pub at night.
Yeah, I mean, there's not. It's a good time to sing.
Well, yeah, it was a guy I know started up, or he's passed away now. Dave Early, I don't know if you've heard of him, but Dave Early, he played for Sade. You remember Sade?
I do love Sade.
Yeah, he played percussion and all Sade's stuff.
Oh,
And
beautiful.
he came to live in Belfast, and he was running a percussion group sort of workshop thing. So I thought I have to get in on that. Bought myself a set of congas and went along, and that was just brilliant. That was, I never looked back from that point. That was just sort of an eye opener, and yeah.
That's awesome. So when did you link up with Phil?
We're together 35.
There was a fairly big music scene, indie music scene around Belfast. I moved to Belfast to go to university.
Oh, okay.
I studied music there, but I met when I was I stayed in halls of residence, and I met a couple of guys. I was already playing a bit of guitar at that point, and writing some songs, and I met a couple of guys who. The first day I met them taught me how to do harmonics on the guitar, and we became lifelong friends. Over the years, I sort of after they were, one of them is the promoter I mentioned earlier on, and he was very much involved in doing sound for, there was a couple of cracker bands working regularly in Belfast. One was sort of a Cajun or old-fashioned old R&B type band, and the other one was a soul band, and they were just all mates of ours. And so you were doing sound on some of those gigs, and we kind of came, and I was singing with a couple of other bands, and I was doing radio and presenting music programs as well, and we kind of got together through that. And then I hadn't been singing for several years, and I had my own promotions business, sort of plugging records for bands and whatever. And
you were not a happy person.
I wasn't terribly happy because I was insanely jealous of the bands that I was putting on the stage. And I was at that point, and I could bloody well do that just as well as her.
Yeah. So I went out and booked the gig.
He went out and booked a gig on the strength of that he was going to book the gigs. The next day he was up on the bloody stage with me, and that was the end of it, and I booked them myself. But anyway, that's how we've been together since with that. And then
and are you guys married? Or are you a couple?
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
We've a big hole dug in the garden just in case, kind of the one needs to go into it.
36 years.
Wow. That's so.
I know wow is the right word.
Well, but I love that. I love that. I actually, there was it's kind of sad, but like there was a just somebody who was passing at the nursing home, and the husband and wife were in there together, and they had been together for 75 years.
Wow.
I was like, that's incredible. And he's unfortunately he has dementia, so he was watching her pass. He understood that, but like the next day he forgot. So there was the sad part about that's being human. Humanity is a tragic beauty, but we got to. That's why we got to enjoy every day and love the ones that we have in our lives now.
That's a long time.
That's a long time to be. I did a song for a while. I wouldn't remember it now, but Kathy Mattea, Kathy Mattea, the country-ish singer. She's a Nashville type singer, but her husband wrote this gorgeous song called Where'd You Go? Where have you been?
Where have you been?
And it was his mother, or it was either his mother or his aunt, and his mother and father or aunt and uncle were in that situation, and one of them had dementia and the other one passed away. And it's such a sad connection, that sort of like it's yeah, but sure, we're here now, and that's all we can hope for, you know. And,
Yeah. So I mean, I just think it's beautiful. 35 years is a long time to be committed, and
I know we're looking for a medal.
Somebody said, if you committed murder, you'd be out by now.
But so you guys have been creating music together this whole time, or is that?
Well,
Much, yeah.
well, we've been touring together since for 30 years. I started going out doing sort of solo tours, and then we kind of developed something that where Tom was just playing percussion, and then gradually he's been singing more. And I had been doing pubs, and I'm a rhythm guitarist. I'm not a lead player, but I play a bit of piano and other stuff. But then we were the touring, and we were mainly playing folk clubs in England, and it was almost impossible to make it pay. In fact, it wasn't possible to make it pay. So we've managed somehow or another to stay doing this in some form for all of that time. I took a job for about a year. But other than that, so I ended up going and doing some teaching, and you did as well. And we went into schools for a long time, which was just brutal doing that. You know, it's really joyful while you're doing it, but then you get to the point where you forget how to do your own thing.
Yeah.
And you know, kind of if you're going into 3 or 4 schools and you have back-to-back wannabe pop stars, you know, kind of, and you're playing the same songs over and out, and sort of we kept my piano playing up, but I managed to tour in between all of that, and and then we kind of wandered off and done different projects. I did a project for television about the old songs that we had grown up with, and managed to get 6 programs on Irish television, and Tom produced that, and
wow.
We had a series of DVDs and songs, but it was a very particular style of songs. So then the last 3 albums we've been doing them as duets, and this one is probably the most where it's the 2 voices rather than mostly me and a little. So, and that works
because we've been writing more together. I'm a lyricist. Phil is the one that puts the magical chords around stuff. I do I come up with lyrics and write these screeds of nonsense down all the time. Some out of songs, but over COVID, we were doing a lot more. All of a sudden, when COVID happened, I don't know about you, but you're suddenly thinking, okay, what do we do now? And so we sat around and for a long time not doing very much. But then we started working together and writing together, which we hadn't done in that sense, where usually I had the lyrics, I brought them to Phil, and then Phil would
work with them, and then backwards and forwards.
Then we would take them from that point. A lot of these ones happened together.
Wow.
So that took it on a slightly different path. But I think that's the beauty about music, that you don't know where it's going to take you next. You don't know where you're going.
It's interesting with this album because we've kind of been at a point. The business here for what we do has changed a lot, and COVID. There's a lot of it won't recover from COVID.
Yeah.
The folk club circuit is something that grew out of the 60s, and the people who were running that, they're dying off, and we're kind of at the age we're at, we're still the youngest going into a lot of those clubs. And so over COVID, an awful lot of them closed, and now for us to go across to Scotland or England, kind of, they're not hugely paid gigs, but we need like 3 gigs to pay for the boat first of all before we would even earn anything,
Right.
And that's getting harder and harder to find. So we sort of decided with this album, the sensible thing would have been to do an album that sounds sort of like what we sound when we're live. But we decided to hell with it. We might never get a chance to do another one. Mind you, we say that every time, but and so we just threw everything at it, and we'll see where it goes.
I
And it's
really
been really
enjoyed
enjoyable.
this one, though. I mean, I have to say, I've really enjoyed working on this album, producing it, and we do, as I say, we do all the work on it ourselves. Like, we bring in some of the heads to do their bit, but we've already created the bits for them to put their magic on.
Yeah.
So I've really enjoyed the process, particularly as we sort of set up at home and separated into different rooms, and we just record it live, as we do it. You know?
The bedroom is Studio B, and the kitchen is Studio C.
Yeah, no, I get it. Hey, I'm in my bedroom right now, so I get it. I totally get it. No,
As long as you have good gear, it doesn't matter.
I agree. No, the thing about recording now is that you can just do it anywhere, however you want, and it's opened up so many opportunities, you know, especially when it comes to, because I mean, I've been in nice studios where we're paying by the hour, you know, and then when that kind of stress and I'm not that kind of studio artist. Like, I don't like that pressure. I really have to be comfortable in my surroundings. So it's like, I love working by myself. I love being able to, have my own setup, have everything where it's supposed to be for my little world, and do it at my leisure. And, technology has afforded that. So, I mean,
you have to be comfortable to create, I think. I mean, you do have to, because you need to get all the rest of the stuff out of your head. You can't have any influences that you don't want there. It's got to be.
What we've done before, because I'm a very basic guitar player, I always brought in another guitar player that I thought of as a better player. And so, but what I was wanting them to do was to do what I was doing, only better. But what happened with that then is, kind of, these were all great, fabulous guitar players. But then the next step, when we bring the next person in, they'd do the guides with me doing vocals, and there was no percussion. And then we'd bring in, say, a bass player, or they'd do it remotely, and it slightly changed. And then after that, the next one came in, and it slightly changed again. So by the time it came to the finished product, it was no bearing on what we had started out with. And then we were stuck with that. So this is the first one where we thought, to hell with it. My guitar player's good enough to do grounds, but we were trying to be more disciplined to bring it back at every stage.
Sorry, that was my stupid computer.
I thought it was ours.
No, it's me. Sorry about that.
No, okay. But I think that really made a difference to me on this recording. It made a difference to both of us that we felt in control of what we were bringing to the thing, and it wasn't going to be changed. That's what it was. So, as I say, it would be augmented, but at least the bones of it would be exactly what we wanted.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it does change when you bring someone else in, and it's only natural. They're bringing their thing to it. They're bringing,
and plus you're getting blown away by what they're playing. You're getting excited about what they're doing, and giving you more ideas.
It's like you get carried away, and that's great. Go for that bit, and then 2 hours later you think, is that the same song?
which can be cool on its own, but like, if you have something that you have in your head and you're really trying to get out and express the way that you hear it, I mean, that's a bummer. But that was something that I had to get broken of when me and my wife were recording her last like full band album, because we did the same thing. We hired just like great musicians, great players, and we recorded at our friend's home studio, which is fantastic. And it was like all analog and onto tape and stuff. So we were being all fancy and stuff. Like I would hear, because I was doing a lot of the writing. I was doing a big part of the writing of the music, and she was doing the lyrics and arranging and stuff. So when I was hearing the first, the rough mixes from the day, I was like, "What is this? This is what I signed up for. This isn't it." But I was just stuck though. I was just stuck in that groove where I was like, "Man, this is how it's supposed to sound," and not just sort of allowing the music to sort of like just sort of take on a life of its own, especially when you're hiring a whole set of people who are not me and doing, them. So it took me something to get past, but it was definitely a great learning lesson for a learning moment for me, because it's like, man, sometimes you do have to sort of like step back and be like, well, this is actually, it's not what you heard, but this is beautiful. This is awesome. This is still amazing. So, but ego and all that stuff can.
Yeah, it's hard to put that ego aside, but at the same time, you need. I always think that you need a little bit of that to be able to hold on to the essence of what it was you wanted in the first place.
Oh yeah.
If you don't have that little bit of something that pushes you to hold on to that, then you're not creating something that's true to yourself. You're creating something that is in a different place. It's a phase to the left of you or something. It's like it's not just you. It's a bit of pseudo you or something.
Yeah. No, that's how it felt at the moment. I was just like, you know what? This is not good. I hate this. I went about it all wrong. But again, it was just me and whatever. It was just a thing that happened. But it was very much a learning moment for me to sort of kind of let go of something.
Do you play all the instruments now, or do you still bring in people?
For the most part, we'll take care of all the instrumentation. So like when I was playing regularly, I was playing mostly keyboards, but then when I play out with my wife, I play guitar. So and I play bass. So I know my way around, percussion, and I know my way around a studio. I know my way around a DAW and stuff. So, we can handle it all. And if we do need something, like I can't play a saxophone, I can't just, and MIDI saxophones still sound like garbage. So, we gotta go out and get it. So if we need it, we will go. But for the most part, anything that we put out now is all just in-house. And I prefer that, honestly.
Do you play as a duo as well? Yeah.
Yes. We play together as a duo, but I don't sing. That's the only thing I don't sing.
You see, get your act together.
I agree. No, my wife is constantly saying, "Come on."
It took Phil 25 years. I would sing, but I wouldn't sing in public, or I wouldn't sing on stage, or I wouldn't sing. But
it's a very vulnerable thing.
Really enjoying it now, and
he's getting all the limelight.
I'm grateful for that.
Now
they're with my backing band. No, I'm his backing band.
Oh, we see the tables have turned. The tables have turned.
It's a hard. I think I do appreciate it's hard, especially if you're singing backing vocals and you're playing something like bass or percussion, because you're doing cross rhythms. It can be very difficult. Yeah. But no.
It takes a lot. I find for me, it takes a lot of practice. If I'm singing something with drums or percussion, it takes a slight shift in your thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, there's sort of like you have to like disconnect in some way and let your muscle memory sort of take over, and then
exactly. I have to get my muscle memory for the part I'm playing in percussion really nailed, because then when I'm singing whatever I'm doing, then I can move it wherever I want around on it. And if I don't have that nailed, I can't. Yeah, it just the one clashes with the other then, and
I know exactly what you're saying, especially when it comes like for whatever.
It's all excuses.
For whatever reason, like bass and singing for me is just not. It doesn't happen. Like it's not there. Like I can play guitar and piano just fine and sing as well, but like for whatever reason, just the percussive nature of bass, it doesn't compute like my brain, which it just takes practice, right? But I haven't.
I think that's why that kind of there's really only 2 or 3 top bass players in Ireland who would jump into bands who can do backing vocals, because a lot can't.
Yeah.
That they never.
Well, there's two or three of the top guys that are really good.
But Nicky never does BBs. Oh, he
Oh,
does.
he does. Yeah, he had to do it with Van Morrison, because when you're playing with Van Morrison,
Everybody sings.
Sing. You've got to sing.
Everybody sings. Which fair enough. And I don't know, like, do you feel like, Tom, your voice has developed and gotten better as you've gotten older? And
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. That's how I feel too.
I feel it's more my voice now. I feel it's more. I think when I was younger, when I think back on it, I took criticism when I was younger for sounding like other people. And I was a massive David Bowie fan. I was a huge. I just adored everything he did, and I think there was a time when I was influenced so much by him that I was sounding a little bit like him.
Yeah.
And I think I finally found my own voice. I think I've got to the point now where I'm happy with it. I can listen to it now.
Not go like, oh.
No, I know.
I'm not there yet. I'm not there. Anytime I hear my singing voice, I'm like, oh God, turn it off. Turn it off. It hurts. It hurts.
Everybody's the same.
I never forget once I had a girl, a young girl in the studio, and I do some studio stuff and get people in to do bits and pieces. And this girl wanted to record some demos, and she came in, and I'd say, yeah, okay, set her up, and got everything going. She had these backing tracks that she wanted to use, so I loaded up the backing tracks, and she started singing. I recorded the first track, and I played it back to her, and she was silence, and because I turned around and looked at her, and she was crying, and I was going, wow, what? She says, that's not me. Who's that? Who's that? What have you done to my voice? And she just couldn't, because she'd been singing along with the track for the singer, instead of singing just with the back, she was singing with. So you're only hearing the voice of the,
as a voice coach, for want of a better word, the single thing that you have to get over with students, and it's been the same, and I had the same problem myself, was accepting what you sounded like yourself and saying it's good enough.
Yeah.
And I kind of used to kind of a lot of we ran summer schools, some things for a lot of my students, the usual things, scraping around looking for work during the summer.
Yeah.
But that, and then kind of record them, and they're all influenced by, they all think they sound like Beyonce or Whitney Houston or whoever, kind of what you call your one Amy Winehouse or
Rihanna
or whatever, and then but that's the hardest lesson, and the majority of them never get there.
Yeah.
And and I kind of I remember reading something about a studio session with who was it that recorded that song, Torn? Wee pop singer from Australia, a really nice song, and it was very popular around the around the 2002 something. And I remember reading an article about it, and there
Natalie Imbruglia.
That's the one.
That's
yeah.
the one.
There were something like 74 tracks on that lead vocal.
Oh wow!
And and she has a really tiny voice and a beautiful voice, but a really not a big voice. apparently that was common practice at the time, So then you get some wee girl coming along who, her mother and father and friends have all said, "Oh, you sound lovely." And you go into a basic studio and there's one of you and you don't sound like that.
She's trying to emulate a sound that she can't possibly.
Yeah, or isn't in the studio that has 75 grand's worth of effects racks and whatever,
It's not fair, right? I mean, it almost, like, especially with auto tune these days, like, you don't even have to really be able to sing. You can just sort of go in and have it. It's like Photoshop and models, right? Like it's like
it's the same thing.
Everything is airbrushed and perfect and taught and brought in and pushed up, and everything is perfect. And where does that leave everyone else? It's just...
I think it's a shame because it makes people like that that kid's never going to be able to sound like that. So it's putting the target that isn't even achievable because it's not real.
It's not. Yeah, it's not even. It doesn't even exist.
It doesn't exist.
But I think what it does is it's quite interesting. We were talking about how hard it is touring and you're not eating properly and you're not getting well paid and whatever. But there's a compulsion in you to go out and do it. Mm-hmm. And I think if those kids get stopped at that point, they don't have that compulsion.
And some of them think could be really good.
Oh, yes, some of them could be really
good. They just...
And that you go out and you do it at all costs, whether you think you sound great or not. You have this compulsion to go and do it, and you learn as you're going along. And
for sure.
And you hope that there's somebody out there likes what you do, and not.
I think there's an audience for everybody. I think if you're anyway reasonable at what you're doing, if you take it seriously and can take it to a reasonable level of proficiency, there's an audience for everyone. I think, and that's the beauty about music. I think it's there's somebody out there for you.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. So Phil, have you always just sung? Is that from a wee chap or wee lady? Yeah. Sorry, chap is a boy, huh?
When I was very small, I think I remember being on stage when I was about that. I was the precocious brat that got wheeled out, So, but I had my mother would have sung constantly in the house, and my background would be more traditional. Although we're in a strange area here, where when I went to grammar school, when I was 10 turning 11, it was a convent school, and there was a kind of that snobbishness of the nuns who didn't want the commoners' music, so I was trained into classical music, and but still trying to sing the other stuff. So I was very, very lucky in that I got to play a lot of instruments and studied music right through. But it was kind of a double-edged sword because I wanted to sing Nina Simone and Bonnie Raitt and stuff, and couldn't. And it took me an awful long time for my voice to settle where I knew I didn't want to be an opera singer, but that's where my training had been. But like I had... my mother had cousins who had ceilidh bands in London that were being at the beginnings of that what would be the traditional session, and an uncle on my father's side was involved in setting up the Fesh in New York, and so there was always lots of music, but and then when I went on to university, I like I say, I was studying Russian opera and really quite bored with it. I'm playing flute in an orchestra. And then I met these couple of guys who sort of taught me the next few stages in the guitar. And we had a wee band and wrote a bit of stuff together. And so kind of, I got more into what I wanted to be singing, and Joni Mitchell and Joan Baez, and I was playing guitar from I was about 14, never going beyond 3 chords, but that was enough. I could play along with myself, and get out and do it.
Yeah.
And then I sort of I had a couple of bad experiences, and I gradually stopped after university, and stopped for well, I lived in the Middle East for a while and played and sang in pop bands and
Wow.
there, but then I stopped singing altogether for about 3-4 years, and then got back into doing backing vocals in studios and TV shows, and then we gradually started doing this. Yes,
What was the bit, if you don't mind talking about it, what was the experiences that sort of turned you away from music for a bit?
well, I had two experiences in school. Um, I was very badly bullied by other girls who were also singers, and it just happened that I was winning stuff that they weren't winning, and they really were very vicious with it, and at the same time, I had a music teacher that I was doing piano with, and I got to the point where I couldn't practice enough to please her. Um, on the way into, I was doing my grade 7 piano exam, and on the way into the exam, she held the door open for me and told me that I was the most unmusical child she had ever met as I walked into an exam. So needless to remark, I didn't pass the exam.
Oh my God.
And I was, on one hand, I was lucky enough that the singing teacher that I had, she sort of pushed and pushed and pushed to make me do my A-level music, my final leaving in school. And I did that and then went on to uni. But it left, I didn't play piano for 20 years after that. And it took me an awful long time to get my confidence as a singer back again. So I sort of, teaching helped me recover from both to a degree. There'll always be an Achilles heel there with them. I'm very careful with it, but when the first day I went into a school to teach a singing class, and there was a child standing beside me, and I suddenly realised they expected me to play the piano. I sort of thought, oops, I better do something. And as I was preaching to them that, you sound fine regardless, just sing. So I started to work on correcting a lot of the things that I'm not a trained voice teacher, but my training has been years of working through stuff myself, and kind of, there's always at the bottom of anything that I do now with other people, it's been for a long time, is that there's no criticism. I don't care if you're singing, if I'm playing something in D and you're singing in F sharp demented, I don't care. You're singing, and they'll come in, they'll find their place eventually, as long as you don't tell them they're wrong.
But that's the difference. That's having the empathy for where they are as well, and that it's.
But I've sort of come to this stage in my life. I've been teaching community choirs for about 15 years, and that they work on the. It's through a network, and that's UK based, called the Natural Voice Network, and it's working on the principle that everybody can sing, and everybody's right to sing. Everybody may not sing brilliantly, and you may not sound like the person that you think you want to sound like, but you still can sing. So we have a huge repertoire of material from around the world that is easy to learn. And what I find is you put 10 people into a room, all of whom have been told at some stage that they can't sing. And within 5 minutes, if you don't make them sing scales and do stuff, they'll be singing perfectly in tune and in harmony and not a problem, So, so it's been an interesting learning curve.
Yeah, I mean that's just thinking, like we talked about that early on, but it would, just a teacher or someone that because you almost don't have a choice when you're learning from someone not to sort of look up to them and sort of, really, respect them in that sense that they're like, this is somebody who's done their craft for a long time, and it's a vulnerable position to be in, and for them to be so cruel about it and to turn you off as a pianist, or even cruelty of bullying is it's just so sad. And the fact that you didn't play piano for 20 years, like It's a darn shame, but I love that you figured out as like you were able to take that, reclaim that, and and have a career with it as well. So to that teacher.
I've stuck with it because it came to a turning point. We were doing really well in the 90s, and we were playing at a big festival in Austria, in Hallein in Austria. And but we were second last on the bill on the Saturday night, which was really the main spot, because the last one everybody was getting a bit drunk and whatever. And we had to do a 90-minute set, and there was about 1,800 people in a marquee.
Wow.
And I went out and I didn't open my eyes for the first half hour. Bit of a problem. And some friends of ours came down from Munich to the gig, and I was terrorized by going onto the stage at that point. And my friend said to me when I came off, said, "What was wrong with you?" And I said, "You've got to either stop or figure it out, one or the other." And he asked me, "Well, why were your eyes closed?" And it was like a double-edged thing. I was afraid to see the audience, but I was also afraid that if I opened my eyes, they wouldn't still be there. It was really weird,
Yeah.
And I kind of, like, I went and took a lot of help, a lot of therapy.
Hey, therapy. Let's go therapy. I'm here for it. Because listen, therapy has changed my life because I don't know, is that whole because there's this thing with the British who are very
Stiff upper lip.
yes, they just are. Is that kind of carry on in the Irish tradition as well?
Oh yeah, you just get on with it.
Get on with it.
It's changing an awful lot.
Yeah.
We have huge influences from America, obviously, with that, kind of, and the internet has changed a lot, but it is changing, yeah.
It is. That people are more and more seeking help when they need it, thankfully.
Yeah.
There are a lot more people around prepared to give help. So it's yeah.
But I think we're kind of stuck in a thing, which you probably recognize as well. You've already said that you've taken a real job over the last while to carry you over. You get stuck in the thing of if you're doing something and the money's coming in, so you don't want to change it. And in a way now I've got to the place where I feel like I'm ready to leave, to stop teaching and concentrate more on my own stuff, but you're still dependent on the earnings from it, and that's and as you get older, you're less able to cope with multiple things as well. Yeah, actually, it's too late to go and change now. We have to stick with it.
Yeah, but I think to some degree, isn't the whole music business a therapy? If you can stick with it, it's a self-development. It's because you're so exposing yourself. I mean, you're up on stage. You're there's nowhere to hide. You're giving it all out there, and you have to reach a place where you can become comfortable with that. So I think that's a therapy in itself. It's a journey we're on.
Yeah, it is. I find it's the only safe place, really, kind of where you're 100. I feel 100% myself when I'm on stage. I just feel, and it's like you say, when the gig is just working perfectly and the set has finally come together. And the only unfortunate thing is the moment not having enough places to play. You come back from doing a run of really nice gigs, and then it's a month until the next one, and you're starting again. But
why does the gig always go so quick?
I know.
Yeah, well, it's
you're up on stage there and you have a whole set, and it just seems to be over in a flash.
You sort of circumvent time and space, right? Like it just you become one with the moment, and that's and then before you know it, that moment is past. I don't know.
Yeah. That's the magic, yeah.
It's a strange thing. And then on the other side, I've been in gigs that just would never end.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, how many more hours? Okay, all right, here we go. We're going. Doing my job, folks. I'm just doing my job. But I mean, the good and the bad, it all makes it sweet. Yeah, can we listen to a song off the album?
Please.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Let's here, I'm gonna go over to a new screen here if I can do it correctly. Hold on. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Boom. Nope, that's not it. Wow. That wasn't it at all. Hold on. I got it. Here we go. Boom. There we go. New screen, new scene. Let's go. Okay, so this is the Bandcamp, and everybody who is here in the live stream and whoever's listening in the audio version of this, make sure you go in the show notes. I'm dropping the links here in the chat, so please everyone go and check out Fil and Tom's music. The new album is called SHoreline. I linked everybody directly to the Bandcamp, so if you guys want to listen to it, you can always stream it here, but you can also make a purchase here as well and support these fine musicians. Okay, so what song should I really love The Devil in the Deep Blue Sea. Your guys' version was beautiful, but I want to hear an original that you guys really maybe a song that you guys really proud of or something. I'm sure you're proud of all of them, but
Go with Shoreline.
Shoreline,
probably.
let's go.
It was
It's
the
a
most
bit of fun, yeah.
It sort of it should be obvious through it, but it was kind of talking about being taken to the beach as children, and for kind of here it's different in
memory,
America obviously, but we're never far from the coast here.
So this one came about in COVID that we wrote it together, and it was just sort of the idea of putting your head back to the days where you were on the beach as a child and kicking the sand around and
And everything including the sandwiches tasted of sand.
Yum. Nothing like sandy sandwiches.
Yeah.
Okay, well then let's listen to Shoreline, and this is from Fil Campbell and Tom McFarland. This is the title track from their latest album, Shoreline. So let's get into this and enjoy, friends.
We're ready now, can we go? I can't wait, you're awfully slow. The car is packed, we're in the back. The picnic's made, can we go? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Feel the sand between your toes. Watch the waves as they grow, diving through the breaking foam. Never wanting to go home. Can we stay here? Can we stay here? Can we stay here? Can we stay here? Back to places that we know, places where we used to go. You and me, all alone on the shoreline, on the shoreline, on the shoreline, on the shoreline. Skimming stones, kicking ball, playing games for one and all, hoping for an ice cream cone, but it's tea and sandwiches then home. Strong tea, crunchy sandwiches, oh very strong tea and crunchy sandwiches. places where we used to go, you and me, all alone on the shoreline, on the shoreline, on the shoreline, we're on the shoreline. Ocean breezes move the sand, making changes to the land. Faces full of laughter lands, memories of those happy times. Back to places that we know, places where we used to go, you and me, all alone on the shoreline, on the shoreline, we're on the shoreline, on the shoreline, back on the shoreline, on the shoreline, we're on the shoreline, on the shoreline.
Oh, we're going. It's just going. Oh, that is wonderful. Now, I gotta unmute you. Sorry. Can I do it? I can. Will you unmute yourself, please? I guess I can't unmute you.
There you go.
Thank you. Yeah. Now I don't know. Like I definitely would see that like on a kids show or something. Have you guys ever thought about like sync licensing and stuff?
Yeah, yeah, would not be nice. That'd be lovely.
But
Yeah, the sea is a big influence here. Really, it's that view that's on the album cover is from close to our house, and that's looking. Those mountains are in the south of Ireland, and we're on the other side of the loch in the north.
wow.
And you're just and where we're living now, where we are tonight, it's in my old home house. It's about 4 miles from the shore in the on the west coast,
On the Atlantic coast.
on the Atlantic coast. That's the east coast on the album.
Wow.
But for everybody here, kind of that's why there's so many songs about fishing and sailing to America, and the water is a huge influence, and all around the islands, I think.
Yeah,
in Britain as well. Yeah.
You've all those memories that I have as a child. My father was a great man for when he was finished work on a Friday, on a Saturday, we would be piled into the car and off we would be taken to the beach or somewhere, and he would bring the packed lunch we brought along, as I said, the crunchy sandwiches.
The country sandwiches. I love
the comments about that proper crunchy sandwich. And then in the old days here, before the UK became part of Europe, the border between the north and the south was there was customs at it, and we had to cross from, like I say, I'm about 100 yards in the north of Ireland, but we had to go through customs to get across into the south to where the beaches were.
Wow.
And so you'd be sitting melting for an hour in the car, first of all, before you'd get there, and then have your crunchy sandwiches.
But I mean, what a view! What that! I mean, it's still beautiful living next to the ocean. I miss it. I missed it so much. Like I used to live in San Diego, California, and
lovely.
I lived in a beach town.
We were there once. I loved San Diego.
Yeah, we played in Encinitas, was it?
Yeah, Encinitas. Yeah, it's amazing. I lived in a beach town called Ocean Beach, and we
Fabulous.
which was like a little party hippie community. Now it's all like condos and rich assholes who, because no one can afford to live there. The artists have all been sort of pushed out, and so it's not a livable situation. But God, I miss it so much. Just having the ocean, and like we were able to hear the ocean from our house, through the window. You can hear it in the distance. We also had sea lions right nearby too, so we'd hear in the background. God, I mean, I miss it so much. But
there's something about being beside the sea, isn't there? I mean, there definitely is. I noticed it the first time we were away touring in Central Europe, and we were away for a long time. Like, we were away on tour for something like 10 or 12 weeks. We were away on a long tour. I really felt there was something missing, it just being so far away from the sea, because such a landlocked, in Central Europe, it's like being in Middle America, I suppose. You're so far away from any ocean.
But you're very close, aren't you? Very close to the lakes, though.
I am. Lake Erie is on us, but it's not the same. It's not an ocean, it's not even. Although we do have people who try to surf some of the lakes, but there's not much luck in that. Do you guys get a lot of surf? Do you got a surf culture there?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's very popular on the Atlantic coast.
Is it warmer in the summer? The Atlantic?
No. It's not Hawaii.
No.
Apparently, for the people who are into surfing, they're all wearing dry suits?
Wetsuits.
Yeah, no, they're the warmer ones, not wetsuits, but they're.
Well, they usually wear wetsuits
as well.
I see, like the thicker ones that are like. Yeah. Oh God.
But there's surfing schools everywhere up the coast, and apparently it's sort of really high level of surf.
They do have some championships here off the coast of Donegal as well, because there's really good surf there. Yeah.
Oh, sick! That's dope. I never would have thought that there was good surf in Ireland, but
well,
here we are. Here we are experiencing it.
You're gonna have to come to Ireland.
I would love to come to Ireland. Ireland. I want to go everywhere. That's the thing. I mean, I just want to. I want to see things. You mentioned that you said in the 90s you were doing really well. What does really well mean? For you guys,
within folk terms, we were
playing big concerts.
Big concerts and festivals, and our name was starting to get around.
In Germany, we were playing to usually anywhere between 1,000 and 1,500.
But something changed, and it was sort of you couldn't do there wasn't the work to be doing that level all the time, and then we had a record company took on my second album, and it was sort of, I was doing more of my own material, rebranded it, and changed the spelling of my name. Was because Fil Campbell is it's such a popular man's name that there's actually a town in America called Fil Campbell in Alabama. Yeah, I swear. And at the time, we were bringing out this album, but the album was called Dreamin', and they were reissuing it in 2000. And there was another Scottish singer called Fil Campbell.
What was P-H-I-L?
Yeah, P-H-I-L.
Oh.
And there was another Scottish singer on the folk circuit as well, was issuing an album the same week, but he was on Sony and I was on a smaller label. And we thought, we'll try just changing the spelling of the name. And it sort of, to a certain degree, it hid me. But
the head of the record label, he was really determined to do that, and he went ahead.
But it doesn't matter. It was what it was. But it sort of, things changed for some reason. I'm not quite sure. I think partly was the circuit changed. It wasn't just us. And then kind of we went to America to a folk conference. You know Folk Alliance? Well, I take it you're more in rock music, are you?
I'm in every music.
Yeah. Well, there's a huge conference every year called Folk Alliance.
Okay, Folk Alliance International.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we went to one of the regional ones of it, to the Northeast regional one in New York State,
Okay.
and went as a songwriter, and was
Upstate.
sort of so excited that we got accepted onto this thing, and got went with my own an album of all my own material, and you set up doing these showcases in your hotel room and stuff, but there were 750 songwriters on it, apart from all the media and the other side of it, right? But we were the only ones from Ireland, and the only thing anybody wanted to hear were Irish songs. They didn't want to hear my songs.
So you set up your bedroom as a sort of a gig,
Stage, you know.
and then the different promoters would come in and out and listen, and any attendant would come in and say, "Oh, sing us an Irish song," you know.
So when we came home, we decided maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to do an album of Irish stuff, and I did an album of stuff that I had learned as a child, and then it took on a life of its own and ended up as a TV series, and we did 3 albums, but it took us down a totally different route.
Whoa.
And it nearly 10 years to get back to where we had been before. So, but you do these things with that. Hindsight's a wonderful thing. You notice.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure that's where the energy was for you guys, right? Like where the energy was feeling, right? So you're just
at that time, yeah.
you're just following the juice.
It was a totally different audience because the people who wanted to hear those songs
Play Molly Malone.
Yeah, that sort of thing. And it was sort of the geriatric audience and up that wanted to hear that, you know.
And we didn't sort of, that audience was dying.
No,
That's literally.
Yeah, it literally died. Oh. Well, I mean, well, that's amazing. I mean, I find that just incredible that you guys have had this beautiful long career that's taken you in different places. And I love you guys. You guys are amazing. So, I mean, we're coming to the end of our discussion here, but do you guys want to try to play a song and see how it goes?
Oh, it's getting very late.
Okay, then let's not. That's totally fine. No, I feel you. But
Yeah, it's yeah, okay.
no, you don't have to. If you don't want to, please don't feel pressured.
Yeah, would you mind if we didn't?
Oh no, not at all, not at all. And besides, like the whole like Google Meets thing, it doesn't translate as well as it could. But you know,
Yeah.
so I have no problem with you guys not doing it. So
That's correct. I would need to retune the guitar, and I just hate doing that on sound and stuff. But yeah.
Don't worry about it.
All right,
I appreciate you guys hanging out with us and
Thanks for having us on.
yeah, well, no, this was an absolutely fantastic time. And again, everybody, the new album is called SHoreline. I'm dropping it in the chat again, so make sure you guys go and click on that. Click on their website. They have a website right there as well. And if you're listening on the audio end, make sure that you go and click in the show notes. Go click in the show notes and support these folks who've just been doing it, and I love it. And so we've been asking this question at the end of our talks here lately. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received? And we can go one at a time. Whoever wants to go first.
I think for me, the best piece has been to do.
Sorry.
Do what you love, and the money will follow, rather than working for money and then hoping that your love of it will follow. Do it the other way around.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, what about you?
I don't know. I'm trying to think. I suppose that the teacher when I was in my teens, when I was just taking drum lessons from the School of Music at the time, he just said, you know, you've just got to keep at it. You just got to keep working at it, and you just got to keep believing that if it's what you want to do, you've just got to stick with it. So I think that's probably the best. There's probably been loads of other ones along the road that I just can't remember at the moment because everybody in the music business is great at giving out advice.
I understand. No, I mean, that was beautiful. Both of those are beautiful pieces of advice. And again, I thank you both so much for your time and for your talent.
Thank
and
you so much, Mike. It's been fabulous. We really enjoyed it.
Well, I'm glad that you did. Me too.
I enjoyed the conversation.
Yes, sir. Likewise. Everybody, please put your hands together for our guests today, Fil Campbell and Tom McFarland. Everybody, let them hear it. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye. There goes Tom and Fil. There goes Tom and Fil in Ireland. There goes Tom and Fil. There goes Tom and Fil. There goes Tom and Fil in Ireland. Yes, in the Most High. Mighty, mighty. Thank you so much for those gifted subs to Edgar Ukes and to Valo Infinity.